now move to question time, and I call Senator Duniam.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Finance, Senator Gallagher. Minister, in response to a question regarding whether a brief or any form of advice was ever provided to you or to your office on the claim or proposed settlement as envisaged by Guidance Note 7, you said, quote, "From my memory, I did not receive a brief or any advice from my department. I think it was quite detailed in terms of any other advice that may have come to the office. I would just want the opportunity to check that. Minister, have you checked whether you or your office received such a brief?"
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. And in terms of whether there was a brief or any form of advice provided to me or my office on the claim or the proposed settlement, and as outlined, I think, by Guidance Note 7, I think was Senator Cash's question, I can confirm that the answer to the Senator's question is no.
Thank you, Minister Gallagher. Senator Duniam, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. In response to a question regarding whether you ever declared a conflict in relation to any aspect of the matter, including the proposed settlement, or if you ever sought advice in relation to a potential conflict, you said, quote, "If it had come to me, I would have declared a conflict, but it didn't cross my desk. I did not get a brief. If there is anything further that I can update the Senate about that, I will." Minister, is there anything further you can update the Senate on in relation to this issue?
Thank you, Senator Duniam. Minister Gallagher.
No, I refer you to the answer I gave last week and the answer I've just given now. I did not receive any brief, including as envisaged by Guidance Note 7, and I did not. So I had no conflict to declare.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Duniam, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. In response to a question regarding whether you or your office had any communication with the Attorney-General or his office in relation to the proposed settlement of the matter, you said, and I quote, "I certainly had no contact with the Attorney-General. Again, just for the purposes of being absolutely clear to the Senate, I will take other aspects of that on notice because that would require me going and speaking with other people, but from my point of view, no." Minister, do you stand by your answer, and can you advise the Senate if your office had any contact with the Attorney-General's office in relation to this settlement matter?
Thank you, Senator Duniam. Minister Gallagher.
I can certainly say that I certainly had no contact with the Attorney-General's office. I will come back. I'm just not clear. I must say I thought I'd answered this last week, but I certainly haven't. I will come back if there's anything further I can advise.
Thank you, Minister. Senator O'Neill.
Thank you very much, President. And my question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Housing and Homelessness, Senator Farrell. The Albanese Labor government has set an ambitious agenda delivering housing for vulnerable Australians. Australians who were left behind by a decade of inaction on housing and homelessness under the former Liberal and National government. Can the Minister please outline some of the measures the Albanese government is delivering to help address the housing challenges for Australians needing a safe and affordable place to call home?
Thank you, Senator O'Neill. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and can I thank Senator O'Neill for her question and her deep interest in this issue. The Albanese government wants every Australian to have the security of having a roof over their head. The Albanese government's ambitious housing agenda is already delivering solutions like the $2 billion Social Housing Accelerator to deliver thousands of new social housing homes right across Australia. Secondly, providing an extra $67.5 million to states and territories to help tackle homelessness. Thirdly, introducing incentives to increase investments in build-to-rent accommodation. Fourthly, increasing the maximum rate of Commonwealth rent assistance by 15%. Sixthly, establishing a new National Housing Accord, making up to $575 million available through the National Housing Infrastructure Facility for more homes, investing an additional $2 billion in financing the National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation to help to buy program to help more people buy a home sooner, and finally expanding the Home Guarantee Scheme. This brings the Albanese government's investment in housing and homelessness to more than $9.5 billion in this financial year. At every opportunity, the Albanese government has built on our housing work because we know that our nation's housing challenges are serious. Others in this place may want to play political games with housing for those in need, but the Albanese government will not be deterred. We will continue delivering to ensure more Australians have a safe and affordable place to call home.
The time for answering has expired. Senator O'Neill, first supplementary.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that expose of practical action that's making a big difference in people's lives. Many of the government's initiatives are underway and already delivering new homes. Can the minister provide an update to the Senate on how the Albanese government's ambitious reform agenda is delivering new homes now for Australians who need them?
Thank you, Senator O'Neill. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President. And yes, I can, Senator O'Neill. The Albanese government has hit the ground running and is already delivering on our housing commitments. The Minister for Housing has announced and visited many of the new developments and homes our reforms are delivering. Projects delivering new social and affordable rental homes in places such as Westmead, Adelaide, Northwest Tasmania, Brisbane and Parramatta. And that's just the start, Senator O'Neill. The additional $2 billion social housing accelerator that we have announced will deliver thousands of new social housing homes right across this country. And while the Greens are prepared to band with the Coalition to play political games, the Albanese government takes Australia's housing affordability challenges seriously, and we're not wasting a day to deliver those solutions.
Thank you, Senator. Senator O'Neill, second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister, and I'm very glad to hear about all this across the country, particularly glad to hear Parramatta, where I was born. Are there any other initiatives the Labor government is seeking to pursue that would further address housing and homelessness for vulnerable Australians? What's preventing these initiatives from coming into effect, and what will this mean for those people in need of more affordable housing?
Thank you, Senator O'Neill. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank Senator O'Neill for her second supplementary question. Yesterday, we saw the Greens stand with their new partners in the Liberals and Nationals to reject the Housing Australia Future Fund bill. They've rejected it and the 30,000 social and affordable rental homes that it would deliver in the first 5 years. They've rejected the ongoing pipeline of funding each and every year. They rejected funding for crisis and transitional accommodation for women and children leaving family violence. They rejected safe and suitable housing for First Nations Australian, and they rejected funding for homes and services for Australian veterans. It's now up to the Greens and the coalitions to explain to Australians in need of affordable housing why they stood in their way. The Albanese government will instead be getting on with the job of delivering the homes that Australia needs.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Henderson.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Finance, Senator Gallagher. Minister, last week you told the Senate that you first heard about sexual assault allegations in the week prior to them becoming public on the 15th of February 2021. Today, the Australian newspaper reports that in late January and early February 2021, Mr Martin Fisk, whose wife Sandra is the ACT Labor Party's operations manager, told the ACT Victims of Crime Commissioner that he was working with a young woman who was about to make a sexual assault disclosure that would likely attract national media attention. Minister, did Mr Fisk or his wife Sandra ever raise these allegations with you or your office prior to the 15th of February 2021?
Minister Wong.
I raise a point of order as to whether that question is in order. These are, well, I'll take that interjection. Senator Gallagher has answered question after question on this, and has been upfront and transparent with the Senate. I didn't take objection to the nature of the questioning with reference to President Hogg's ruling for 2 days, after which time I drew the President's attention to it. We are now at the point where the opposition, in their desperate attempt to continue this tactic, despite what the DPP has said about Ms Higgins' mental state at the conclusion of her trial, we are now at the point where we're being asked about conversations, alleged conversations, about which the minister has made no statement, and I respectfully submit the question is not in order.
Senator Birmingham.
President, in relation to the point of order by Minister Wong, it is clearly in order for, as President Hogg's ruling makes clear and subsequent rulings have, a minister to be asked about statements they have made as a minister, and in particular to be asked about statements they have made as a minister in this chamber. This question was premised first and foremost by referencing Senator Gallagher's question, by referencing Senator Gallagher's
Birmingham,
statement.
I'm sorry, please resume your seat. Order on my left and my right. Senator Birmingham, please continue.
Thanks, President. This question was premised first and foremost by referencing Senator Gallagher's statement to the Senate last week, and as has been the case with questioning in relation to this, they are seeking to ascertain the veracity of those statements, given the deep concern about the minister having potentially misled the chamber. That, President, is the basis upon which these questions have been asked, and where this question is presented, testing the statement of the minister to the Senate in her capacity as a minister.
Thank you. So I've had a contribution from both leaders. I am going to refer back to the rulings that Senator Hogg made, and I'm going to invite Minister Gallagher to answer that question in whatever way she thinks is relevant. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. And I have tried over the last week and a bit, and indeed longer than that in relation to the media, to be accountable and helpful to the Senate. I am mindful of the ongoing distress that this political tactic that is being played in this chamber, despite my statement I've made. Well, Holly, you can stop saying wow, because I am being absolutely upfront here. But you are now asking me things that and I'm happy to answer. The answer to the question is no. And I am clear, I am happy to answer that, because even though it's not relevant, and it's not relevant to my statement, I know what you would do if I didn't answer it. I know exactly what you would do, Senator Henderson and others. And if you would like me to go through my telephone book and show you who's in my contacts, other diary appointments, things like that, we can continue to play this game. But in the meantime, people, and we have to be serious. We cannot stand here and say that we are creating a safe environment for staff, a safe workplace, or an environment where women are encouraged to come forward and raise complaints about the way they were treated.
Minister, please resume your seat. Order on my right. The minister was answering and those interjections were disorderly. Minister, did you wish to make a further contribution? Thank you. Senator Henderson, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, again noting your statement to the Senate of last Tuesday, did anyone other than Ms Higgins and or Mr Shiraz approach you or your office prior to the 15th of February 2021 regarding these allegations?
Order. Order on my right. Order on my right. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. And I would again remind people who have signed up to the Respect at Work report, to the Set the Standard report, to those that attend morning teas and breakfasts and continue to say how they support women to come forward and raise their complaints in this workplace and others. All of you who attend that, just reflect on the line of questioning you are pursuing, which is over and above the issues that I responded to in my statement on last week, and the concerns that have been raised around my comments in estimates. The answer to the question is no. I'm continuing to answer them because I know exactly what will happen if I don't. But I would also say there are some other questions that need answers in this place, which is how did text messages get leaked? How did a draft statement of claim for compensation get leaked?
Order.
How did all of that
Minister,
get leaked?
That's order. Order on my right. Order on my left and my right. Senator Wong. Senator Wong. Order. Senator Henderson.
Thank you, President. Minister, last week you also told the Senate that you did absolutely nothing with the information provided. Prior to the 15th of February 2021, did you discuss any of the information with anyone other than Ms Higgins or Mr Shiraz?
Minister Gallagher.
I refer you to the statement I made and the questions that I've answered in the past week.
Thank you, Minister Gallagher. Senator Whish-Wilson.
Thank you, President. My question is to Senator Wong on behalf of the Environment Minister. Plastic pollution in our oceans is one of the world's biggest environmental problems and challenges. The problem is getting worse, not better, largely because plastic packaging production is unregulated around the world. Minister, in recent weeks, negotiations for a global plastics treaty to eliminate plastic pollution from our environment took place in Paris. I understand the Minister attended in person because she was concerned that the treaty would be watered down and that some big producers of plastics were pushing for voluntary-led approaches, industry-led approaches, rather than legally binding, mandated schemes. Can you please update the Senate on the outcomes of these recent treaty negotiations?
Thank you, Senator Whish-Wilson. Minister.
Thank you, Senator Whish-Wilson. I do recall the Minister making public statement about that, and I think I probably signed off on the credentials for the delegation. I don't have a brief in front of me that goes in detail to some of the questions you asked, so I will ask the Environment Minister to give me some advice in order to if needed, in order to add to my answer. It is correct to say that the Minister did attend the discussions in relation to the development of a global treaty to end plastic pollution by 2040. I understand both publicly and in terms of the advice I've been given now that it was Australia's position that the treaty should be legally binding and include strong targets. That is also a view that is shared, as Senator Whish-Wilson would know, by many of our Pacific neighbours. And if I may, if you'll indulge me with just a small anecdote, when I was younger and used to do a lot of scuba diving in Southeast Asia, it was bad then, and I can only imagine it's got a lot worse since. Having said that, I don't have an update as to precisely what the conduct of the negotiations yielded. I will obtain advice on that, Senator Whish-Wilson, but I would make the point that we do have an Environment Minister in Ms Plibersek who is deeply committed to ensuring that in government we do all that we are able, whether it's in relation to plastics or more broadly the repair of nature, and is committed to making sure there is a measurable difference as a consequence of the work she is doing to our environment.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whish-Wilson, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister Wong. Respectfully, isn't it a bit rich for our government to be taking a leadership position in these global negotiations on a legally binding global plastics treaty, while we still have big business in Australia driving voluntary waste and reduction schemes which I point out have failed miserably over more than 20 years to achieve any of their objectives?
Thank you, Senator Whish-Wilson. Minister.
First, I would say that we know after a decade of those opposite that we are in a far worse situation than we were over 10 years ago. I think in the last decade, or just over a decade, we've seen plastic waste double between about 2010 and 2021. I agree with you, Senator Whish-Wilson, that the voluntary targets and design guidelines aren't doing what we would want them to do. And I'm advised that Minister Plibersek at a recent Environment Ministers meeting obtained agreement with the states that packaging would be subject to strict new government rules aimed at cutting waste and boosting recycling. This is in order to help make sure packaging waste is minimised in the first place, and where packaging is used, it is designed to be recovered, reused or recycled.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Whish-Wilson, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, the Albanese government is in consultation stages of a potential mandatory or legally binding scheme for packaging in Australia. Given you will be consulting with the big packaging and retail businesses that are the cause of this plastic pollution, and may I say also are big donors to your political party, will you confirm to the Australian people and commit to regulation that holds them to account and actually makes a difference?
Thank you, Senator Whish-Wilson. Minister Wong.
Well, it's almost impossible, isn't it, to get a Greens question without a suggestion that somehow government policy is changed because of political donations. And you may think that, but that is not how we operate. That is not how we operate. And it is possible, as I said to past Senator Milne, when she and I were contesting over the carbon price, I said to her, you know, it is just possible we may just not agree. We may just not agree with your position. But in relation to this, the advice I have is that the Minister has sought agreement that there would be mandatory packaging design standards and targets, including for recycled content, that we will double the recycling capacity in Australia, we would reform the regulation of packaging by 2025, that at her instigation with the states, the Ministerial Advisory Group would be formed, and the Minister has announced the regulation of recycling solar panels.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Pratt.
My question is to the Minister for Women, Senator Gallagher. Minister, the Albanese government's $2 billion investment in social housing accelerator program is a significant commitment to improving housing outcomes for Australians. So we all know that housing is one of the most important policy areas right now, after a decade of neglect by the coalition government. Given that women, particularly single mothers, are disproportionately affected through housing insecurity, could the Minister elaborate on how this investment will specifically benefit women and contribute to addressing the housing challenges they face?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Pratt for the question. The Albanese government's $2 billion investment in social housing accelerator program is a significant step forward towards addressing Australia's housing challenges. This investment will deliver thousands of new social rental homes across the country. And with this investment, we are working to reverse the decline of national housing stock that we've seen over the past decade, a decade of neglect and little action from those opposite when they were in government. Now we've inherited this situation with extensive waiting lists for public housing across state and territory governments and a massive shortfall of supply. But the government is working hard to meet these unfulfilled needs. Our investment will be of particular benefit for women who are disproportionately affected by housing insecurity and are more likely to experience housing stress. Women are less likely to be able to save for a deposit, less likely to own their own home, and are the fastest growing cohort at risk of homelessness. Homelessness is, of course, a particular risk for women who need to flee domestic violence situations. Our investment in social housing will directly benefit women experiencing housing stress or at risk of homelessness by increasing the supply of affordable homes. The government's $2 billion social housing accelerator program allows for a range of approaches to boost social housing stock right across the country. This means we can target the area of greatest need, including areas where single mums, older women and children fleeing domestic violence live. Furthermore, our investment in social housing is part of a broader housing agenda that includes measures specifically designed to support women. We're providing $67.5 million to states to help tackle homelessness and $350 million through the Housing Accord to build 20,000 new affordable rentals in the next 5 years, and we could do more if the Housing Australia Future Fund passed this Senate.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Pratt, first supplementary.
Thank you. Can the Minister please advise the Senate on how the Social Housing Accelerator program works alongside other initiatives of the Albanese government to improve housing outcomes for women? Here I'm thinking about women on low incomes, women fleeing domestic violence and older women. How will these initiatives by the Albanese Labor government assist all these groups of women?
Thank you, Senator Pratt. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President, and I thank Senator Pratt for the supplementary. And the Social Housing Accelerator program is just one part of our comprehensive housing agenda, being led by Minister Julie Collins. In 2022-23, the Albanese government will spend $9.5 billion to help address our nation's housing challenges. As the senators will be aware, there's a $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund, which is designed to build 30,000 new social and affordable rental homes in its first 5 years. But unfortunately, that bill and that fund is being prevented from being established because of the Senate's refusal to debate and finalise that bill. This means that 4,000 properties, specifically for women and children fleeing domestic and family violence and older women on low incomes who are at risk of homelessness, those housing properties are not able to be delivered.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Pratt, second supplementary.
Thank you. Minister, how does the Albanese government's investment in social housing compare to the efforts of the previous government to address housing insecurity among women? We know there has recently been a decade of neglect and waste from the coalition and that our government is playing catch-up. But can the minister compare and contrast the two governments?
Thank you, Senator Pratt. Minister Gallagher.
And I thank Senator Pratt for the supplementary. Well, in the Albanese government, there is a government that's interested in social housing, that's interested in making sure that we work with the states and territories to respond to the significant challenges being faced across the country when it comes to housing affordability and access to affordable rental properties. And that is in contrast to the way that the former government engaged with states and territories on the housing agenda. So this $2 billion investment in social housing accelerator program is the largest investment that's been made into social and affordable housing, and we know from the advice of states and territories just how important this investment is going to be to make sure that they can deal with some of the urgent and unmet need that's been allowed to grow over the past decade because of the failure of the former government to address this and work in partnerships with the states and territories as we intend to do.
Thank you, Minister. Senator David Pocock.
Thank you, President. I have a question to the Minister representing the Minister for Housing, Senator Farrell. When will the government release an issues paper and commence consultation on the National Housing and Homelessness Plan? This was a Labor election commitment, and with the delay to the Housing Australia Future Fund package of bills, how will the government deliver on its commitments under Outcome 9 of the Closing the Gap statement?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President. And can I thank Senator Pocock for his question. And I heard you on the ABC radio just before I did the Bevan show this morning in Adelaide. And can I congratulate you on your comments and your sensible, progressive attitude to this, which contrasts so dramatically with the Greens and their allies, the coalition. Well, Senator Hanson-Young, if you read the bill, Senator Hanson-Young, you'd understand why what you said on the
Minister
ABC
Farrell.
today.
Minister Farrell, I called you about 5 times. Order on my right at the back of the chamber. Those interjections are disorderly. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. And I'm running out of time here, but I will answer the very sensible question by Senator Pocock. Just to particularly answer the direct question is that we will soon launch the formal consultation on the plan, which will set out the 10-year strategy to inform housing and homelessness policy in Australia. The Minister for Housing, Minister Collins, who's doing a terrific job, I might add, in the most difficult of circumstances, remains committed to the housing commitment in the housing portfolio under Closing the Gap. Through the housing reform agenda, the Albanese government is committed to reducing overcrowding for Indigenous Australians and has seen improvements in all states currently experiencing overcrowding. But we accept, Senator Pocock, your fundamental proposition that there is a lot more to do, and the Albanese government is committed to working with our state and territory counterparts to ensure more Australians have a safe and affordable place to call home. I was able to talk this morning on the ABC about the fact that in South Australia alone, projects are being delayed as a result of the
the time for answering has expired. Senator Pocock, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister. How many houses does the government modelling show will be built as part of the recently announced $2 billion accelerator program?
Minister Farrell.
Thank you.
Minister, please resume your seat. Order. 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 Senator Ayres. The minister was on his feet. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. Well, the $2 billion social housing accelerator project, which the government announced on the weekend, will deliver thousands of new social homes right across Australia. This investment will build more housing for more Australians in more parts of our nation, and this, of course, includes...
Senator Farrell, please resume your seat. Order across the chamber. Order. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President. Thousands. It's going to deliver thousands of new social homes across Australia. I can't be any more specific than that. In fact, through the Social Housing Accelerator, the Albanese government will deliver $50 million to the ACT to immediately begin boosting social housing stock. We've done this because the Albanese Labor government knows a secure home will give more Australians the foundation for a better future.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
President, thank you, Minister. Will the government continue to negotiate with the Greens and bring back the Housing Australia Future Fund package of bills after the winter break?
Order. Order. Order across the chamber. Senator Wong. I'm going to call the Minister.
Thank you, President, and thank you for your second supplementary question, Senator Pocock. Well, the future of this bill now is entirely in the hands of the people over there and the people down there. Now, I described yesterday, I think accurately, this... Yes?
Oh, beg your pardon, Senator Pocock.
I'm just interested if the government will on answering the question, will bring it back. I'm conscious there's 40 seconds left.
Yeah, and I believe the minister was beginning to answer that question, Senator Pocock. I'll continue to listen. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President. And we will bring this back as soon as we understand that either the Greens come to the senses or the coalition change their attitude. Order. And we can get this through. There's no point wasting. There's no point. I know the Greens are really upset and embarrassed by the decision to line up with the coalition. But the moment we get clarity that the Greens are going to back this legislation, it's going to be back here, because I know, Senator Pocock, that you've got the common sense to support this legislation. If only the Greens had the same common sense.
The time for answering has expired. Order. Order. Senator Nampijinpa-Price.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Indigenous Australians, Senator Gallagher. One of the key architects to the government's Voice to Parliament, Thomas Mayo, says First Nations groups should punish politicians that ignore our advice. Does the Minister agree with this statement?
Thank you, Senator Nampijinpa-Price. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. The government has been clear that the referendum is about recognising Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Constitution through the voice. It's about recognition and listening, recognising the 65,000 years of shared history and culture that we should all be very proud of, and about setting up the voice so that we can improve the lives of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people by making sure that they are heard, and that we have seen I think some of the best of this approach and some of the concerns raised through the debate in this chamber over the past week or so. But I think all of us, now that that bill has passed, need to proceed on the debate, on the discussion about the referendum with respect and care for each other. And seize the opportunity that comes from the generous statement, the Uluru Statement from the Heart, about working together for a better future. That is something that the government is keen to do. We are focused on it.
Please resume your seat. Senator Canavan.
Madam President, just a point of order on relevance. The question was very clearly related to some particular comments reported this week. I don't think the Minister's gone anywhere near responding to those at this stage.
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Wong.
Thank you. On the point of order, I would also make the point that Senator Gallagher is appropriately responding within the portfolio she represents to what has been put to her. I appreciate that those opposite wish to go after people outside of this chamber. But that is actually not within her portfolio. She is responding appropriately within the portfolio she is representing.
I believe the Minister is being relevant, and I will continue listening carefully to her response. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much. As I was saying, the voice is about recognition and listening. It's a moment that's bigger than politics, and it's about moving the country forward together. As senators know from the debate that we've had over the past week, the voice will be an advisory body. It'll be made up of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians who will give advice to government on issues that affect their community. It's that simple, and it's the process of years of discussion, consultation and hard work by those on the working group and others, including those involved at Uluru in 2017. It's a patient and gracious ask of Australia, and we know that the voice will help to close the gap by giving communities a say in the matters that affect them so that better policies can be made.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Nampijinpa-Price, first supplementary.
Thank you. I will note the Minister's failure to back away from the statement. The government claims the Voice to Parliament proposal is modest, yet, as per recent reporting, Thomas Mayo also says we keep going, we maintain this momentum until we change the system, until we tear down the institutions that harm our people. Does the Minister agree with these comments?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you all. I don't want my answer to be misrepresented, and I haven't seen the comments that Senator Nampijinpa-Price refers to, but I have listened to Mr Mayo in the past. I have always found him an articulate and passionate advocate for the voice. I accept that that is not a voice that Senator Nampijinpa-Price agrees with, but this referendum is an opportunity to bring the country together, not to divide it. It's about working together, showing each other respect, listening to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people about matters that are relevant to them, about policies that are, around programs that are, and also, importantly, recognising our first Australians and our proud history in our Constitution, and it is that simple.
Thank you. Senator, order. Order on my left. Order. Senator Nampijinpa-Price, second supplementary.
Will the minister condemn Mr Mayo's comments, or is it true that this is not a modest proposal and instead a divisive, harmful change to our nation's rule book?
Minister.
Thank you, President. Well, I don't agree with Senator Nampijinpa-Price's view on the voice or on the process around the referendum. I categorically reject that view. I think this is an opportunity to bring the country together, to say yes to recognition, to say yes to the voice, to unify the country, and, as the Uluru Statement from the Heart says, to say yes to a better future. And it is bigger than politics. Now that that bill has passed this place, this is a matter for the Australian people, and it's a matter for which they deserve respect, they deserve honesty, they deserve the correct information, so that when they do go to cast their vote, they are voting on accurate information, not misinformation that might suit the purposes of the No campaign but isn't an honest reflection of what the Uluru Statement from the Heart sought or what the voice will be.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lambie.
Thank you, Madam President. Earlier today I sought to table in this place the Article 15 communication I have lodged with the International Criminal Court regarding the command responsibility of Australian military high commanders for alleged war crimes by Australian forces in Afghanistan.
Senator Lambie, I've got the minister on a point of order. Please resume your seat.
I'm happy to have the clocks reset, but can I be clear, is the question being asked of me or Senator Watt?
Yes, sorry, I should have brought that to Senator Lambie's attention. Senator Lambie, who's your question to?
Sorry, for the Minister representing the Minister for Defence. My apologies.
Okay, and if you'd like to start the question again. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam President. Earlier today I sought to table in this place the Article 15 communication I have lodged with the International Criminal Court regarding the command responsibility of Australian military higher commanders for alleged war crimes by Australian forces in Afghanistan. I have done this because successive governments have not supported Australian diggers, or my call to admit that we have a problem, a massive problem with senior command. Does the government now admit we have a problem with high command within the Australian Defence Force?
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister Wong.
Thank you. I was aware, Senator Lambie, and I know that the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence, well, I believe he is also aware of the matters that you informed the Senate of earlier today, which is that you have filed an Article 15 communication to the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. What I would say is that I'm advised that Australia is taking all appropriate steps to investigate allegations concerning the conduct of members of the ADF in Afghanistan, including by establishing the Office of the Special Investigator, and I think the Senator has been briefed about that. In relation to the Brereton report, it is a hugely significant document, and there are very substantial allegations which are contained within it. The government has been focused since taking office in May 2022 on ensuring that the recommendations of that report are implemented to the fullest possible extent. That work is ongoing. I'm also advised that as part of that work, the Chief of the Defence Force has considered the command accountability of current and former serving ADF members who held command positions during the periods in which the Inspector General of the ADF found credible information of incidents of alleged unlawful conduct as identified in the Afghanistan inquiry. The CDF has presented the relevant material to government for consideration. The Deputy Prime Minister, in his capacity as Minister for Defence, is considering the recommendations and seeking advice as appropriate. I am advised that the Deputy Prime Minister has offered to meet with you to discuss these matters.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lambie, first supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. Australian diggers have been dragged through the ringer for allegations of war crimes for almost a decade now. Recently heard that the AFP is unable to use evidence supplied by the Inspector-General of the Australian Defence Force in its investigation into Afghanistan. This is an absolute monumental stuff-up. How can the government have any confidence that due process and natural justice can be achieved now for the men living under the cloud of these allegations more than a decade after the events are said to have taken place?
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister Wong.
In relation to the assertion regarding the Australian Federal Police, I'll provide the information I have, Senator Lambie, which doesn't entirely accord with the assertion you've made in that question. I'm advised that the Office of the Special Investigator is working with the Australian Federal Police to investigate relevant allegations. I am advised that the OSI remains focused on conducting its work expeditiously, thoroughly and fairly. Those working on these matters are obviously conscious of the importance of Australia's national interests and this is the issue which Senator Lambie is particularly concerned about, and rightly so, the potential impact on those affected by investigations. I understand this was traversed at Senate estimates on the 23rd of May 2023, and the OSI's Director General made clear a number of investigations are ongoing, and where appropriate, briefs of evidence will be referred to the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecution for consideration.
Minister, the time for answering has expired. Senator Lambie, second supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. In estimates a few weeks ago, the Chief of the Defence admitted to marking his own homework when it came to the awarding of his Distinguished Service Cross, an award he received for commanding troops he has abandoned. Unsurprisingly, General Campbell judged himself to be fit to wear that award. Will the government once and for all review General Campbell's award and strip him of his medal and finally issue him with a notice to show cause for removal from his command?
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister Wong.
I first would say, Senator Lambie, obviously there are a number of assertions again in that question that the government does not accept. I appreciate that those are the position. That is the position you've put, including in estimates, to the CDF. I'd make the point that the CDF is seeking to act on the outstanding recommendations of the Brereton report. I'd also make the point that the decision to cancel any award is made by the Governor-General. There's currently a process in relation to that, and I'm not in a position to preempt that process. I wasn't at estimates when these questions were being asked, but I do understand that the Chief of the Defence Force responded to a number of the assertions, including those that you make today about the role he has played.
Thank you, Minister Wong. Senator Sterle.
Yes, thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Skills and Training, Senator Watt. We know that increasing the skills of Australians is a key part of the Albanese government's plan to lift productivity. How is the government's fee-free TAFE initiative helping to build the future workforce and giving Australians the skills and training they need to harness the jobs and opportunities of the future? And what has been the uptake of fee-free TAFE courses so far?
Thank you, Senator Sterle. Minister Watt.
Thank you very much, Senator Sterle. I know that you're a very strong supporter of the TAFE system in your home state of Western Australia. When the Albanese government was elected just over 12 months ago, it was clear that not only had we inherited $1 trillion of Liberal and national debt with nothing to show for it, but after a decade in government they also left behind a massive skills deficit. There used to be 153 occupations on the skills shortage list in Australia, but under those opposite it jumped to 286, almost doubled. According to the OECD, Australia is experiencing the second most severe labour shortage in the developed world. It is an embarrassing legacy of a decade of coalition government. Projections are that 9 out of every 10 new jobs over the next 5 years will need a post-school qualification. The Albanese government recognises the urgency of the skills crisis facing our nation. Strong and accessible higher education and vocational education and training sectors are crucial to tackling this skill shortage. It's also vital to boosting Australia's productivity. Our government has a plan to make our economy stronger and more productive so that we can lift incomes and lift living standards, because we don't want Australians to have to work harder for less money. That's why we took immediate action after the election by bringing together Australians, unions, employers and civil society at the Jobs and Skills Summit, and by working with state and territory governments to fund 180,000 fee-free TAFE places in 2023. I'm pleased to update the Senate that in the first quarter of 2023, the Albanese government has supported over almost 150,000 Australians to enrol in fee-free TAFE. The most popular courses have been in skills priority areas like early childhood education, nursing, support work, cybersecurity and construction. We've also seen a strong uptake by women, while more than 25,000 students currently enrolled in fee-free TAFE are from households that speak a language other than English at home. This marks the start of a once-in-a-generation reform of the TAFE and VET sector.
Has expired. Senator Sterle, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. We know access to education and training for students and workers to reskill or upskill in areas of demand can be life-changing. It also increases the likelihood of a good, secure job with career progression. How is the fee-free TAFE initiative helping students to access training while also providing cost of living relief?
Minister Watt.
Thanks again, Senator Sterle. Well, the government's fee-free TAFE and VET plan is helping to reduce cost of living pressures, with students saving thousands of dollars in course fees while upgrading their skills. To give you a few examples, students undertaking a Diploma of Early Childhood Education and Care in Victoria are up to $8,700 better off. Students undertaking a Diploma of Nursing in Western Australia, your home state, Senator Sterle, are up to $10,451 better off. Students studying a Diploma of Building and Construction in South Australia are up to $10,600 better off. Students undertaking a Diploma of Information Technology in Cybersecurity in New South Wales are up to $4,060 better off with fee-free TAFE. Students undertaking a Diploma of Agriculture in my state of Queensland are up to $4,500 better off, and it's the same throughout the rest of Australia. Tasmania Landscape Construction over $2,000 better off, Cybersecurity in the ACT over $3,000 better off, and the Northern Territory over $3,000 better off in school-based education
has
support.
Expired. Senator Sterle, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, we know not everyone supports our plans to deliver cost of living relief to students and opportunities to train in areas of high demand. What has been the response to our fee-free TAFE policy?
Minister.
Senator Sterle, you would think that with the ability to deliver the skills that Australians need, productivity improvements that the economy needs and cost of living relief, you'd think that is something that everyone in this chamber could get behind. But according to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition and the Shadow Minister for Skills and Training, Ms Lee, fee-free TAFE is, quote, wasteful spending. I suppose it shouldn't be surprising, given the Coalition cut more than $3 billion out of the TAFE system since 2013. You can't take that much money out of TAFE and then complain about a skill shortage, but that's of course exactly what the Coalition are doing. When comparing the Treasurer's budget speech and the Opposition Leader's budget reply speech last month, it's very clear who actually cares about upskilling Australians. On this side, we spoke about creating 300,000 fee-free TAFE places to train Australians in critical and emerging sectors. The Opposition Leader didn't mention TAFE once. When they're in power, they cut TAFE. When they're out of power, they say it's wasteful spending.
Thank you, Minister.
We're getting on with the job.
The time for answering has expired. Senator McGrath.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. The release earlier today of minutes from the last Reserve Board meeting show that the Board assessed, and I quote, finely balanced arguments when it decided just three weeks after the Albanese government's second budget on a 12th interest rate increase. How could Labor's expenditures budget, which included $185 billion of new spending, have done anything other than tip the balance in favour of another interest rate increase, leaving Australians facing the highest RBA cash rate in 12 years?
Thank you, Senator McGrath. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much. I thank Senator McGrath for the question. I also note that in the minutes released, members noted that the new policies announced in the Australian government budget had not had a material effect on the staff forecast for economic activity or inflation. Members observed that it was understandable that the lowest paid workers would be compensated for high inflation. There was a whole range of issues noted in this statement, but consistent with the evidence that the Governor gave at estimates, consistent with the evidence that the Secretary-Treasury gave at estimates, the budget actually took pressure off inflation. And it did so through the Energy Relief Price Plan, which those opposite opposed. And this was a carefully calibrated budget. We had to do a number of things in this budget. We had to clean up some of the terminating measures that were dropping off where funding wasn't going to be provided any longer. We had to provide cost of living relief where we could make investments into Medicare and the care economy, where we could support women, and where we could also make sensible investments into those growth opportunities for the future, but where those investments didn't add to inflation. The evidence from economists, the evidence from the Governor, the evidence from the Secretary-Treasury, the detailed budget papers, all of that is consistent with the minutes that have been released today. And inflation is the key economic challenge. We understand how it impacts on households, how interest rates impact on households, but also how high prices impact on households, which is why it's so important that the budget work alongside the efforts of the Reserve Bank to bring the inflation rate back to target range, which is exactly what this budget sought to do.
Thank you, Minister. Senator McGrath, first supplementary.
Thank you. With inflation having a 7 in front of it for 3 quarters under the Albanese government and cost of living running out of control, how could Labor's removal from the budget fiscal strategy of the objective to immediately address inflation have done anything other than tip the balance in favour of another interest rate increase, leaving Australians facing the highest RBA cash rate in 12 years?
Thank you, Senator McGrath. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, of course, the highest quarter of inflation was in the March quarter of last year, which actually was the end of your government, and the interest rate increases that we've seen commenced under your government. They are the facts. They are the facts. And what Australians know is that they have a government that is focused on—
Minister Gallagher, please resume your seat. Order across the chamber. Minister, please continue.
That is focused on responsible economic management, that's focused on making sure the budget is actually used as a vehicle for investing in the things we need to do now, but also in the things we need to do in the future, that we are looking sensibly at where our investments are going to make sure that they are timed in a way, and I take the interjection from that the entire budget was, and we went through this in estimates with Senator Hume, who also tried to run this line, a clear fiscal—
thank you,
because
Minister. The time for answering has expired. Thank you. Order. Order. Senator McGrath, second supplementary.
In Senate estimates, it was confirmed that the Prime Minister has not received a briefing on the economic challenges Australia faces from the Treasury Secretary. Has the Prime Minister subsequently received a briefing? When will he prioritise his time and policies to addressing the cost of living crisis confronting millions of Australians?
Order. Senator Wong. Order. Senator Wong. Order. Senator McGrath. Both of you, Senator Wong and McGrath. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, that wasn't actually confirmed at Senate estimates. The Prime Minister has been repeatedly briefed, and the Secretary of Treasury also confirmed this through our standard processes, through ERC and other committee processes. It was made clear that the Prime Minister had been briefed, had been consistently briefed, was involved in all of those discussions. So it's just wrong to say that. And you would, for the first time, we actually have a Prime Minister that's doing his job, not taking everybody else's job, and leading a government whose sole focus is on how to manage the economic circumstances we currently live in. So sit down.
Order across the chamber. Minister Gallagher.
Whose 150% focus is on making sure that this government is mindful of the lives of the Australian people.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Payman.
My question is to Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Senator Wong. The LNP twiddled their thumbs while their energy policy chaos saw dispatchable power leave the grid. The Albanese Labor government took urgent action to shield Australian families and businesses from the worst of global energy price spikes. Could the minister outline how the Albanese government is working to drive down household and business energy costs while also making homes and businesses cheaper to run?
Good question.
Minister Wong.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Payman. And I'm very pleased to get this question. And can I say at the outset, the senator asserts that those opposite twiddled their thumbs whilst in government. Well, it was worse than that, wasn't it? They were entirely focused on their internal conflict, entirely focused on having their fight, whether Barnaby Joyce versus those who actually understood that there was a problem, and 22 energy policies, and guess who has to clean up the mess?
Order. Order on my left. Senator Cash, I've just brought your side to order. Minister Wong, please continue.
22 energy policies, a market which saw a reduction in dispatchable capacity, and then, to add insult to injury, who voted against energy price relief? The no-alition! The no-alition!
Order!
Now, that's who voted against energy price relief.
Minister Wong! Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Order! 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 Order. Minister, please continue.
I know it's triggering for those opposite to realise that their tactics led them to the position where they have to say to the Australian people,
Minister,
we support higher prices. That's what those opposite were saying. We don't want to vote for price relief. And no, we will. You know, I don't think Australians are going to forget.
Order. Minister, please continue.
I know it's difficult for those opposite to accept. We know that they suddenly, had anxiety thereafter because they tried to pretend that they didn't actually vote against it when everybody knows they did. Well, unlike them, we are committed to doing the work to deliver cheaper, cleaner energy for Australians. And in less than 2 weeks, millions of Australians will start to benefit from energy price relief rebates, which those opposites opposed. 5 million households. 5 million households. 5 million households and 1 million businesses around this country, an Albanese government initiative.
Order.
An Albanese government initiative that we are delivering despite your opposition.
Thank you, Minister. Order. Senator Payman, first supplementary.
I thank the Minister for her response. In addition to those great Albanese Albanese government initiatives, the Small Business Energy Incentive will help up to 3.8 million small and medium-sized businesses save energy and save on their energy bills. Can the Minister please explain to the Senate what has been the response to this announcement from the Albanese Labor government?
Minister Wong.
Thank you. The Small Business Energy Incentive starts on the 1st of July, and that's an initiative of this government, and it will help 3.8 million businesses. I'm not sure if they voted against that one or whether they weren't able to actually vote against it because we were able to implement it. They might have if they could have, because they vote against pretty much anything. Business,
Order.
3.8 million businesses will benefit from the 1st of July from this incentive.
Senator Wong, please resume your seat. Repeated interjections are disorderly. I'm going to ask you to listen in silence and I'll call the minister again. Minister Wong.
Businesses with an annual turnover of less than $50 million will get an additional 20% tax deduction on spending that supports more efficient use of energy, helping small businesses make investments such as electrifying their heating and cooling systems, upgrading to more efficient fridges and installing batteries and heat pumps. The Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry has praised the incentive, with Mr Wilcox correctly identifying its benefit as threefold: a triple dividend, lowering bills, emissions and the pressure on our energy systems as they transition.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Payman, second supplementary.
The Albanese Labor government is partnering with state and territory governments to provide up to $3 billion in electricity bill relief for eligible households and small businesses through the Energy Bill Relief Fund. How will Australians benefit from this measure, and how many Australians will benefit, Minister?
Thank you, Senator Payman. Minister Wong.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Payman for the question, and I can confirm that households across this country are benefiting from our intervention and the rebates announced. In New South Wales, families who receive the rebate will get a total saving of $843. Let's remember, that's a saving you didn't want them to have. An 8% decrease on what their bill was last year. In Victoria, families will benefit by approximately $555. Again, a saving you didn't want them to have. In Queensland, families will benefit by about $819. Again, a saving you didn't want them to have. The reality is 5 million households across this country will be eligible for...
Senator Wong, please resume your seat. Order on my left. And Senator Watt, your interjections are disorderly. Minister, please continue.
5 million households across this country will benefit from the initiative of this government, and everyone knows those opposite voted against it, voted against price relief for Australians, and they stand condemned for their constant opposition to sound policy and sound intervention. And on that, President, I ask that further questions be placed on notice.
Thank you. Thank you.